Welcome to the Lead to Win podcast. Today I'm with Jay and we're going to be speaking all around growing the profit center of your business, which is the back end sales. How to double, triple, quadruple your business by making more sales after the sale. Jay's worked with everyone from Cole Gordon, Ali Abdal and the Rainmaker family. And in this podcast, you're going to get tactical plays that you can do to be able to grow your business. So Jay, welcome.
Thank you for having me here. Super excited to dive in.
Okay. First, I heard of you because of your book. And I didn't read your book, but I had seen your book.
Mm-hmm.
And then a few months after seeing you talk in Dublin, which was in October at Brian Moncarda's event, I then downloaded your book and started to read through your book before working with you. Can you explain how this book came about? Because you don't come from a traditional background where you meet people who are in the marketing online space, which are a 21-year-old kid making a couple of million. You come from a different background. So how did you get to this point?
Yeah, I'm going to try to summarize it a little bit. So I started as a systems engineer. I was an engineer for 10 years. I worked in high stakes kind of projects. My last project was in Qatar for the World Cup, and I was responsible for $100 million just for my work package. My biggest role in that project was also not engineering, was mostly leadership and leading my team and make sure I could deal with the final client that was always interested in getting whatever they were expecting to get, like meeting client expectations was my thing there. I always felt trapped inside a box. I felt I could do more. So I had that entrepreneurial bug in me as well. So I started exploring my own business as a side. That business grew really, really fast. I learned how to scale that business by myself at the beginning to more than 100 clients. And then I started to apply all these 10 years of learning how to do systems to my own business. And then after I was doing that for a while, I left engineering, went all in, and I was like, man, there are a lot of businesses, a lot of service-based businesses out there that could benefit from this type of help on how they can systemize their client journey and how they can generate more back-end sales and more retention for their existing clients without chasing new clients every single day, every single month. They can if they want, but if they have a leaky bucket, it doesn't matter how fast you try to grow your acquisition. You're just losing so many clients without supporting them and encouraging them to stay with you for the long term. And I saw a need there. It was very early, it was 5 years ago, and I felt that the market wasn't necessarily looking for this kind of help. Some people were interested. This is why we got some traction immediately. But the change we've seen over the past 5 years on people wanting support with this kind of approach has massively changed for the better. So I'm very happy that we started 5 years ago, because now the stage of awareness for the market is that we need help, we need to prevent churn, and we need help with client retention so that we have more back-end sales opportunity. We can increase lifetime value.
Okay, I'm going to touch on leadership and a lot of the back-end sales. But when I look at a lot of our listeners are people who want to hit, like, let's say between 10 and 12 million a year. So let's say these are entrepreneurs who have the ambition to make $1 million a month. And this is the key number that everyone's trying to chase. But the deficiency most people have is in leadership, sales, delivery, systems. But the strength they have is in generating leads in marketing. So a lot of people, when they open their business, they have this amazing strength, which is one person can generate 10,000 leads. Mm-hmm. But one person can't close them all. So the skill in developing those and getting those leads was creative, was advertising, paid, organic, whatever it was, content. Then they feel as though that's done. They've now got a business. But that's only the start of a business. Mm-hmm. You've now got attention. After the attention, this is the part we come in and we install all of sales, systems and tracking and management leadership. But then there's another part to it, which is delivery. So you call it a profit center, mm-hmm. and you call it how you can double, triple a business. So what's the methodology on how a lot of your clients, a lot of these marketers, a lot of even myself who's actually worked with you, how are businesses coming into you and they have a certain amount of profit? What happens? What do you build? What is a system that you build?
So one of the key takeaways when people work with us is that at the end of the work, they understand what making fulfillment and client success a profit center means. Basically, it's your ability to shift your mindset from thinking that client success and client delivery is a cost. It's not a cost, it's an investment, because there is an ROI that can be made there. And some people don't understand that for multiple reasons. Reason number one is that everyone got addicted to performance marketing. If it's not measurable in 24 hours, it's not working, which is not true. Like, it might be true for a transaction like marketing and sales, but it's not true for client success and delivery. Why? because you're going to spend so much more time with the client than what you did during your marketing and sales process that it's going to take more time for you to actually reap all the rewards, basically. So if I look at the system, number one, there are only three things we look at to get those businesses to scale. Number one, preventing churn. That's the key, number one. Like if you're losing clients at an incredible high rate, you're going to be in trouble. You're not going to be able to offset the number of clients you're losing, and you're going to be out of business in no time, and you'll have to start it all over again, new offer, new business, and do the same thing over and over again. And you see that a lot in the online space. Young people, they don't have a lot of business acumen. They're really smart with marketing. They know a thing or two about sales. They can grow a business for 3 to 6 months. Then they don't know how to sustain it. Then they just shut out the business and start a new one. That's how it goes.
Can we cover all three of them?
Yeah,
go into more detail?
Individually. Yeah. So churn, the number one reason for churn is the lack of expectations being met. So if expectations are not met, that's the key number one reason that normally leads to client churn. And basically what I'm saying is that some of these marketeers are so bold with their marketing message that normally it creates a very incorrect and unrealistic expectation.
Is this
for
with
clients.
the guarantees and with all that
Guarantees, we're going to work with you forever, or if you don't get X, we're going to refund you. And then there is a contract and an agreement that has like 100 things they have to do in order for them to be eligible for a guarantee. That's deceiving. And that's the part where I say that performance marketing can be measured, but word of mouth, it's hard to measure. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist. People and clients will talk about it. Clients will talk about it between them without you knowing. And that will spread like wildfire. That's one of the scariest things and one of the common things I look for when we start an engagement. If a client of ours says, hey, we had this issue, there is a viral Reddit thread talking about us saying we're a scam, like, okay, something is really off here. We need to address it immediately. And normally it's the promise. It's the marketing and sales promise that is actually pushing the boundaries too much. And then it's going to be impossible to keep those clients. And my definition of churn, and I want to explain what I mean when I say churn. Churn is different depending on your business model. If you have a retainer kind of business model, churn is going to be any client you lose, any client that doesn't continue for the next month, that client is churn. But most of the people in our space have a fixed contract duration kind of approach. It's a 90-day program, or it's a 6-month program, or it's a 12-month program. For me, churn is lack of contracted revenue. If a client hires you to work with them for 90 days and they just pay for the first month, that's churn. If they refund, that's churn. If you cannot collect the second payment, that's churn. Because I've seen people trying to play with the numbers and say, oh, my churn is actually not bad. Okay, cool. Share with me your collections rate. Oh, my collections rate is 60%. Okay, cool. So your churn is actually 40%. It means that 40% of your clients are not paying on time and what's owed. That's churn. But if a client stays with you for 90 days and you're able to fulfill on the initial promise and they were somehow happy and you didn't sell them something else after that, that's not churn. It's basically you don't have the right systems and setup and maybe not the right training to get those clients to stay with you beyond those 90 days. That's a different problem that we can talk about in a second. But if we address churn only, it would be how can we meet our client expectations as often as possible, like a system, like clockwork? How can we create synergy between client success and client delivery in our sales and marketing department so that we all have the same approach when we talk about client expectations?
Okay, so in marketing, the bigger the claim that you can make, the more likely you are to close a deal. And it's very hard to pull back. And if you look at Eugene Schwartz, when he wrote Breakthrough Advertising, the industry naturally moves to people becoming more and more extreme on guarantees, and it cycles back.
Yep.
And right now, in this small industry of high-ticket education, online education, we're at the point recently where guarantees are so extreme. How are you balancing when you're working with a business where they have crazy guarantees on the front end, but then they need to deliver on them? How can you tell a marketer change or do something different? Like, what's the solution here?
I do believe we're reaching a point that we're actually going to go and reset. Yeah. I think we're very close to that point. And I see that in the sales conversations we have for people that are going to work with us. They're at the point that they're like, okay, cool, we know how to sell. But the amount of refunds, the amount of complaints, the lack of follow through that we see in our clients, we can understand that there is a problem with our marketing message. We need to change. And sometimes you don't need to change your offer. I think that's the biggest misunderstanding. What scares a lot of business owners, they don't want to change the offer. And sometimes you don't need to change the offer. You just need to change the promise. And I understand you can get more traction the bolder you go with guarantees and promises and ambitious goals. But people typically tend to understand that something is off here. This sounds too, when people say something like this sounds too good to be true, it means there is a reset that is either happening or is going to happen very shortly. So the faster you can adapt to that, and the faster you can adapt your marketing message to the sophistication of the market, the better you'll do over the long term. Even if that comes at the cost of a small trade-off that you might have to grow a little bit slower than what you wanted. I think there's also another misconception in our space, which is most people in our space think it's normal for you to grow at 100% rate every single month. If you look at any other mature spaces, that's not the norm. Like, you're not going to go into any industry and they expect to grow at 100% rate month over month. You can do that during the startup stage when you're starting, you're validating an idea, you're getting product to market fit. But after a while, some of these businesses are happy enough if they grow at the 20% rate every single year over year. So I think there is also a lack of business understanding in our space, which creates this kind of crazy, bold expectations that our clients have. But I think that it's also caused by the B2B coaching they're getting from other companies. Like, think about it. Our clients are selling to their clients, but someone is also selling to them. And someone is selling to them the idea that they can grow at 100, 200, 300% growth rate month to month or year to year, which actually will just transfer that idea to the way they do marketing. So that's another mistake. Like, think about your offer. Do you have a BizUp offer? What's the type of offer you have? Do you have like a business to business? I call it B2W, business to wannabe, which is basically the BizUp offers. They say, oh, I have a BizUp. No, it's not a BizUp. It's a B2B. No, you actually have a B2W. It's a business to wannabe entrepreneur, which is fine. Just call it correctly. And then you have B2C. Understanding your offer, understanding your claims is going to be important. Because B2B, nowadays, what I'm seeing in the marketing side of things is that you don't need to make crazy promises. Like, business owners have been burned so many times that they're going to be fine with something that is realistic, that you can show up well and you can deliver on time. They're going to be happy with that. On the B2C side, you can still push the boundary a little bit. I think there is still time for some people to play with the expectations and promises, but go back to what's doable. Think about what's actually realistic. If you have served 100, 500, 1,000 clients over the past couple of years, how many of them actually got results? And what were the results they did get? Because that's the most important question. I can guarantee if you show your clients or prospects that they can get a very nice result in a short period of time, even if it's not the result you have been promising, if you explain it well and you can support that claim with results and proof, they're going to still be inclined to work with you. So I think this is the main message. Like, expectations are going to be important. Even though it might come at the cost of a trade-off for your marketing, it's going to provide you a better solution and sustainability for your business over the long term.
Yep. Okay. So with churn, it's mainly about not setting expectations they can't deliver on, and also understanding churn between what churn actually is. Is it churn of the business, which is just a 90-day agreement, or is it because they're failing payments and not meeting demands and all this stuff? And then the different segments of churn between BizUp, B2B, B2wannabe, and all these ones. Should people be expecting different amounts of churn? Like with my B2B clients, I hardly have any churn.
Which is totally normal, and that's expected. Because when you're working with a very educated business owner, you have really good relationship with your clients. You have clarity on the expectations and what's going to be delivered, and you guys communicate often. Normally, that's very, very low churn.
Yeah.
BizUp offers or B2W, business to wannabe, they tend to have like very, very high churn. For one single reason, you're asking someone that has little to no entrepreneurial skills to become an entrepreneur in a very short period of time. And if you're a business owner, think about yourself. Did you become an entrepreneur in 90 days? You didn't. But you had that bug in you, and after multiple trials, offers, experimentation, you actually give yourself permission to be an entrepreneur. And I think that's the most important message. Some of your clients, if you have a BizUp offer, even though you might have higher churn, you might have to live with that new expectation. You need to understand, if they go from possible to probable, you've done a great job for your clients.
Really good. So now, like, what I want someone to take away from this podcast is, I know how to grow my business not because of front end, not just because of sales like we teach them, but for everything else. And that's going to make them money. I want people to genuinely benefit. And now, I know your other 2 points already as well, and I want to allow you to go into those other 2 points. But before we do, I just want to break apart from point number one for a second. Your company's called Ethical Scaling, but you have a definition of scaling which is different to many others. Because everyone in marketing will say, scaling is when I'm just now going from 1 to 10 million.
Yes.
That's what scaling is to them. Can you give a definition of scaling before you go into point 2 and 3?
So the definition I use for scaling comes from my engineering days. Scaling as a system means that you become more efficient. And efficiency is nothing more than you being able to generate more with the same, or more with less, or the same with less. But when you need to do more to generate more, that's not the definition of scaling. That's the definition of growth.
So
and there's nothing wrong with it. Like, just want to make sure people don't feel like guilty because they're growing their business. That's needed. But the next iteration is scaling.
So if I'm a founder and I'm delivering all the coaching, now I hire my first CSM, am I scaling or have I hired someone and I'm not scaling because I've hired someone?
Probably you're in a growth phase, because if you just look at profitability, if that's your key marker here, you might be less profitable during that initial period because now you have more overhead.
And
you
your
have to pay
margins go
someone. So the margins are going to be less. Still, that critical piece of your system, it's going to help you scale, because you cannot scale yourself, but you can scale a team. You can make your team more efficient over time. But I think when I need to pause here for a second when I think about scaling. It's not just about the people. It's about the system itself. As an example, what people think is like, I'm going to scale my ads. And then they say, oh, my ROAS is actually less. That's like literally not the definition of scaling. It's quite the opposite. So you put $1 in, you get $2 out. Now you put $2 in and you get $3 out. That's not scaling. That's growing. More inputs to get the more outputs, but they're not in the same proportion as they were initially.
So scaling is same inputs, more outputs, or
less inputs for the same outputs, or more outputs, which is even better.
Now, just to ask you, you mentioned the word systems. How many people who work with you don't even have a system, don't even have a project management system?
Oh, a lot of them. I'm not going to say all, but a ton.
And
9 out of 10.
That's okay because you support them with that. Now, let me just say a system can be something vague. A lot of young entrepreneurs, a system doesn't make, it's just a word. Now, the biggest system that we know of is a solar system. That's the biggest system that we ever have thought of. And then, like, what is a system? What is, like, because for someone who's new to business, sometimes telling them to go use another tool like a project management system, there's a barrier there, because it's like, I have to use these things to put things there, but they don't understand the automation and everything behind it as it grows. So can you explain what a system is before you move into
a very simple way to think about a system that already exists in your business? That's another misconception. People say, oh, I don't have any systems. You do. You're just not aware. You have some systems in your business, but they might be inefficient. They might not be well documented, but they exist. If you're able to find a stranger and get that stranger to opt in and get that opt in to show up for a sales call, that's a system. It's not documented. It's not well organized. It doesn't have any project management. That's fine, but there is a system there. So the system is nothing more than a collection of parts that will lead to an outcome. So anything you do in your business can become a better documented and more efficient system. So if you want to pause for a second and think, how many businesses have you seen that have great systems? Well, not a lot, but a lot of them had systems in place. So one of the key roles and one of the key deliverables, or one of the most fundamental things we can do, is just look at the business and think about what's the flow between a stranger to an opt-in or a prospect, to a sales call, to a sale, to the initial part of the delivery, to meeting expectations, to reselling that client. That alone could be your business operating system itself. But then we need to break down all the department systems so that we know how we can tweak and optimize each of them for its best performance. Because again, the big picture you have for the systems, the more complex the system looks like. So instead of just thinking, how can I fix this whole business system? It's like, how can I address each of my constraints, which could be marketing, could be sales, could be service delivery, could be the financial department, could be account receivables, could be HR, depending on how big your company are, could be multiple things. But a system is nothing more than a collection of parts that will help you go from A to B. Ideally, if you're scaling that system with a better outcome when you reach point B than what it was on point A.
And if you speak to an entrepreneur who's making 10K sales, 10 of them a month, making 100K, collecting 50, 60K, this person, when you look at their business and they have no back end, no system, when you look and you think, how much of an uplift can you create for that business after they work with you?
For businesses that are at that kind of 7 figures a year, Normally, what I've seen, most of them don't have a backend system in place. So that's easy. Being honest, it's easy because they've never worked with their clients to get those clients to have an opportunity to work with them for longer. So that's easy money. So even at a 20% retention rate, I could easily see them adding 200K to 400K, maybe 500K a year just from sales from their existing client base. And you can get creative. Like one of the things, and again, subject to everyone's preference, but here's a good example of someone who does this amazingly well. If you like him or not, I will leave to the audience to say, Frank Kern, that's what he does for a living. Every single month, if you're in his email list, there's going to be an offer. And he basically sells to people that already bought something from him. And that's, let's be honest, it's impressive because he has like thousands of people in his email list. He's going to send you a Loom. You click the Loom. You're going to watch the video. It's a short VSL. And if you like, you book a call. And you're not going to click every month's emails or every offer he sends on the email, but he tries so many things on how to increase lifetime value for his existing audience and that he can get it done. I would do it differently. When I think about our space, I would do it more systematically, but I think their way of testing what offers your existing audience likes and wants, it's a very smart idea. So if someone is at around 60, 70, 100K a month and you don't know what to sell to your clients, my first recommendation is what we do with every single client, and we just did this last week with one of our clients. I was like, okay, cool. Can you run 5 calls with clients that are around day 75, day 80 out of 90? Send me those 5 recordings. There are 3 questions you're going to ask. Question number 1, what was your goal when you started? Just to restate the goal. How much have you accomplished so far? And what were some of the obstacles you found from point A to your existing point B? And I watch all those calls just to get some market research.
In my experience, many people are scared to ask those questions.
I know.
Because they know the honest answer.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's the issue. They avoid facing the truth, but that just keeps them blind. And that's the problem. You're losing money. And also, let's think about human psychology. We're very wired to negativity.
Yeah.
So if you get a bad email, you're going to think your company sucks, my delivery sucks. And you forget the other 10 emails that say that you're amazing. It's just how we're wired. We tend to be wired for negativity because it's a protection mechanism as a human. It's like, I'm in the savannah, I'm being hunted, I need to run. Something is chasing me. But that's not the reality that we live nowadays. It doesn't matter. If you have one unhappy client, that's sad. It's not good. Address it. Understand what made that client dissatisfied with your service and prevent that. Maybe you cannot change the life of that client anymore. And it's unfortunate that happened, but you can prevent that in the future.
You're so right. I went to a hotel recently. It was $700 a night. I stayed there for 3 nights. And I think it was in New York. After I stayed there, it was incredible. Day 1 was good. Day 2 was good. But on day 3, there was just issues happening in the room. There was noise. There was little things that were happening. But then I walked away from that experience remembering only the bad. I don't remember how good the bed sheets were. I don't remember how good the breakfast was. I don't remember all that stuff. I just now have a memory of the bad. So.
And I think that's why what keeps some entrepreneurs stuck at that specific revenue range is that they're afraid of having those conversations. But if you already have a team, and if it makes you more comfortable, get your team to run those conversations. Even if it makes your team uncomfortable, getting that feedback and looking at feedback. How many times I have found offers that no one thought about just by listening to those calls, it's countless. And normally those offers that I come up with ideas, they're very basic. And the owners are like, oh, this offer is actually very simple. Yeah, just listen to the calls and you're going to see how simple are the things your clients want after they trust you. Because you've taken 90 days to build trust. After the trust is built, you can use that as a currency to offer something else. Because I do believe that the process to get a new sale from an existing client is very different from the first sale. The first sale was a lot more complex because there was no trust. There is a lot of skepticism. You know how the market works. It's going to be a lot more challenging to get that sale. But after the sale is done, if you've built that trust, just listen to what they want. I'm a true believer that we don't create desire. We channel desire. So if you don't run that call to understand where the desire is, how can I channel that desire for my next offer?
I love it. And now, so there's 3 points to growing your business on the back end that you already talk about. Point number 1 is churn.
Churn.
Now we understand churn. Let's move to point number 2 and truly understand what is the second component of this.
I'm going to talk about referrals because it's a very sexy topic. So referrals are very cool because it's a nice way for you to get new clients without paying anything for it. So if you prevent churn, you're not leaking money. Like, you're keeping the money, you're hitting your projections, your contracted revenue, it's being collected. That's number one. That's good. Meeting client expectations. Number two, it's going to be referrals. Referrals is going to be critical. Why? Again, free money. But there is a big misconception around referrals. It's like everyone thinks, like, how can I get more referrals? Number one, if your churn is high, I can promise you're not going to get a lot of referrals. And referrals operate very differently from a mindset perspective, depending on your business and offer. For a BZOP offer, you know what they want. They want money, right? This is why they're working with you. So you can pay them for referrals, or you can have a really nice incentive for referrals. But for B2B offers, as an example, what I've found over the years and what I've seen helping our clients get those systems in place is that some of the times in a B2B offer, if you offer an incentive instead of a reward, and I'm being careful with those two words because they're very different. Incentive, it's something you give someone before they take an action. A reward is something you give them after they've taken the action. For B2B, if you offer an incentive, it can be an insult. For some businesses, I don't want you to pay me to get a referral. I want to send you a referral because I trust you and I like you and I had fun working with you and I want to feel good. My status should feel better just because I'm sending someone your way. So for B2B offers, typically status is more relevant than money. And I'm not saying you cannot give them a nice check, money, whatever you want to give your clients if they send you a referral. That's a nice agreement. But one of the misconceptions, like, how can I get more referrals? First of all, your clients need to feel like, number one, expectations were met. Number two, that whatever you have in place is a repeatable process. If they feel like this is not a repeatable process, they're not going to refer their friends and family. Think about how they're going to feel like if the next event they're going to be with that person or multiple people, they show up and they're complaining the whole time.
Yep.
Because they didn't have a great experience. You feel bad. It lowers your status. So you should increase their perception of status or they're not going to do it. So it's important to understand, do I have a B2B offer and it's all about status? Do I have like a B2W, like we called it before, and I need to give them money because it's a nice way for them to make return?
And B2W is wannabe people who are, no, it's not even BizUp, is it less than BizUp?
It's probably less than BizUp. Most of the times BizUp can fall under there. There are so many BizUp. Let me use a BizUp that I know not a lot of people are doing, so no one is going to feel called out. This whole AI thing. Now there is a whole BizUp, and I'm going to teach you how to become an AI consultant. It's growing, and it's going to grow faster than ever. That's an example. Some of them are not even consultants. Most of them are not even business owners.
Just a kid who's just done some AI training.
And they might become really good at what they do. So it's a B2W because I want to be an entrepreneur. I am not an entrepreneur. So I'm going to learn a skill and I'm going to think I'm an entrepreneur. You might be, not in 90 days. You might become a great consultant and you might be a great value add to a lot of businesses, but you're not an entrepreneur yet. So that would be an example of a BizOp that would fall under that umbrella. And for them, you know what the motivation is, make money. So if you can pay them to get referrals, probably it's going to work.
How would someone ask for referrals? Is it on day 1, day 5, day 20?
My preference, my approach is to think about referrals as using Goodwill as a bank account. I use the Goodwill bank account analogy a lot. When I'm working with a client and they have paid me and they didn't get the value yet, I need to spend the next 30, 60, 90 days, 6 months depositing Goodwill. And that would be my core focus when I think about delivery. It's to deposit as much Goodwill as possible so that I can withdraw some of that Goodwill. And when I say withdrawing Goodwill, could be two types, intentional and non-intentional. I'm going to talk about the non-intentional one. If you drop the ball, if something doesn't go well, if your client isn't happy a week or two, you're going to lose some of that deposited Goodwill. So I'm going to have some savings, like if my car breaks, I want to have some savings so I can fix my car immediately without feeling affected by it. So that's where some of that Goodwill could be used. But then you have the intentional Goodwill, which is like when you ask for a referral, when you ask for a testimonial, when you ask for an online review, when you ask for an upsell. That's also another use case when you're going to use some of that existing Goodwill that you have been depositing in your bank account. This is why it's very challenging for me when people try to push referrals super hard early on in the journey. It's so early, you haven't built enough trust and credibility and goodwill to be asking for referrals. The only exception, again, would be in offers that your key promise is that you're going to help people make money immediately. And if that can generate money through a referral commission from the get-go, so it's more like an affiliate approach than actually a referral approach. So I like to keep them separated because it feels more like an affiliate approach, almost like an MLM at times. I will treat that differently. Again, no judgment, is just a different approach. But most businesses, ideally, after the clients see value and they hit the peak, so they're super happy and super confident about the journey, that would be the time I would start the conversation about a referral.
Okay, got you. So then you got churn, then you got referrals. And if people are doing these two things, so if they're managing their churn and they're managing the referral, how does their business change? What's the biggest thing? So now let's say marketing takes a hit because they're not losing anyone, they're not going backwards. And because they got some sort of acquisition from referral, even if there's an issue with their Facebook ad account, because everyone will have a marketing issue at some point.
Oh, everyone.
It
Have yet to find one that doesn't have that.
So it allows the business to have stability because they've worked on those things. And most people would find that very hard to put energy into churn and referrals because marketing is like, let me come up with a new campaign. Let me go on a new channel. Let me now do YouTube and Instagram, which is my way of thinking at the moment because I'm trying to push our acquisition even harder. So what's the third thing that they can do?
Can I just touch on something you said because I think it's brilliant? I think one of the reasons they're doing that, there is a big narrative in our space that velocity is key. And nothing against that. But I think most of the entrepreneurs in our space feel like speed equals they're going fast. And sometimes that's not the case. They feel like if they go downhill on a bicycle, they're going faster than going seated on an airplane. And they're not. But that perception of speed normally makes them do too many things too fast without taking the necessary time to do the things they're doing correctly and well and with sustainability. So I just want to pause for a second. When people say, oh, I need to grow really, really fast or someone is going to copy my business model, there is one thing they cannot copy. If you have a tribe of raving fans, clients that love you, clients that have a great experience, I can promise from experience, it's going to be extremely hard for them to copy your business.
Okay. And there's a Kelly Clarkson thing, which is like you want 1,000 raving fans. And if you just have 1,000 raving fans, you grow a massive business.
It's impossible not to do that. Because again, raving fans, referrals, no churn, more offers. And that's the third part of the equation. I'll tell you how I've grown
my business. It was not through Facebook ads. I would go to events, masterminds, and I would get clients. But then that wasn't it. That was one part of it. That showed my sales ability. But at the next event, those same clients would come back to the next event. And then they would tell everyone at that event who they've worked with. And then when I would introduce myself, those clients would say, I've worked with him, I've done this. And then that's when the sales came. It wasn't from the first mastermind. It was from the multiple masterminds that my clients went to when I attended. And then they would tell everyone to go there. So those fans of you become like the ones who do the selling for you. And it's so much easier when somebody else is selling it for you, because then people approach you and say, hey, this person said this about you. What do you do? Rather than me approaching someone and saying, I am this person, I have sales consulting, fractional sales business. That's more uphill rather than someone coming to me.
Yep, 100%. And I mean, we've grown and scaled our business over the past 5 years, mostly through, I'm going to say borrowed trust. Because borrowed trust could be the referrals, which is critical and very useful for us. But secondly, speaking from stage. When we go and speak from stage and we borrow the trust that already exists from the event host, it's going to be a lot easier when they go and say, great endorsement, Jay is super smart, he wrote this book, he worked with all these companies. People are going to say, I should listen because I trust the host. If the host is endorsing this person, I'm sure it's something I should pay attention to. That helps massively. And again, nothing against growing acquisition. I think you need both because it can also be unreliable just to rely on referrals only. But like you said, if marketing doesn't do well for a while, if you have little to no churn and referrals are going to be in a really good shape. And then the third piece of that equation, it's how can I increase lifetime value with back-end sales? Again, there is so much focus on the front end that people forget what's next. What else could be sold to my existing clients? And again, some agencies, as an example, they have a retainer and that's it. They don't have any back-end offers. Every month it's almost a resale because they need to keep that client working with them for the long term. And that's absolutely fine. Still, what I found with agencies, and this has been more recently over the past year or two, you can still get very creative with the few things we've tested with agencies. It's like, okay, can you run add-on offers? Okay, your agency runs Facebook ads. And that's the thing. But you're really good with Google ads as well. And they want to try Google ads. Can you give them like a discounted option? Oh, but it's not much. It's like $500 a month or $1,000 a month. Who cares? If you have 100 clients, that's another 10 grand that you could spend to acquire new clients with money that doesn't come from your pocket. That's called leverage. Other people's money. And you're providing a service with labor that you already have in-house. So it's not going to cost you much more to deliver that. For coaching and consultants is slightly different. Most of the times, if you have a fixed duration, like a 60, 90, 120-day program, if they were successful, this is why it's so important for you to know what success looks like for your clients at the end of those 90 days. What would be the next step for them? And the only way for you to know that is by having conversations with your clients. Ask them, what's on their mind? What's the next goalpost for them? Because if you get to know that, then you can find how can I create or adjust some of my vehicles that I have in-house to be the vehicle my client needs to go from now point B to point C. Because if you don't know what your client wants, you're going to try to guess what they want. So why would you guess what they want when you can just ask them? That's always my question.
So you fix one problem only to create another. Because you always seem to, like with sales teams, we fix their sales, but then we create a supply problem. So they need better delivery. So what kind of things happen when you fix the problems that you do? How do you keep them engaged in making even more and doing more? What problem do you actually create after you fix their initial problem?
Yeah, typically it's understanding like if my client came to me because they have a problem and they went through 90 days with me and they fixed that problem, what's a new problem that was created by the fix of the number one?
Yeah.
And there are only two questions you need to be asking your clients. Even if you don't ask them on a call, you can ask that yourself when watching the recording. What things do my clients want that they still don't have? And what things my clients now have that they don't want? If you know how to answer those two questions, I normally do a table in a Google Doc and I write all the ideas side by side. That's enough for you to create a back-end offer. And I know it sounds extremely simple, but you would be surprised on how easy it is for you to put like 3 or 4 pillars together, start testing, selling that, and you're going to get some traction immediately.
I love it. Yesterday I went to a mastermind. It was Will Brown's mastermind. At the end of the mastermind, he went around the room and said, if I was to make a YouTube video for you, what would I need to make a YouTube video about? And it's such a disguised question because instead of saying what you're kind of struggling with at the moment in your business, it's like, if I was to make a YouTube video for you, and it's great because I can ask this to people and I can find out, if I was to make a YouTube video for you, what would you, but they're going to answer it because they know I make sales related YouTube videos. So they know that I've engineered the question a certain way. And there's this trick within them, not even a trick, there's a system or there's a knack to asking questions. So when you look at CS teams, now the business owner is down to those 3 parts. He implements those 3 parts in a business, but then account managers, system managers, or whatever the customer success team is called, what kind of things they need to be doing to generate more money for the business in terms of behaviorally?
So number one, you will need to help your team overcome the mindset block they will have around having these conversations. Client success teams are great by default at taking care of clients, but they have the wrong idea about what a resale or a referral process is going to look like. They think, but I'm their coach or I'm the CSM or the account manager. I don't feel good about selling them something. It's going to feel like deceiving because I was the coach. If you're their coach and if you're coaching them throughout the journey, shouldn't you be responsible for showing them what's the next step?
Yeah.
So I normally tell CS teams, your main goal close to the end of the front-end journey is to do problem education. And when they understand, this is actually not selling. No, it's problem education. Shouldn't you show your clients what's the next problem they're going to face when they continue going down this road? Because they don't know what they don't know, but you know. Because if you work with plenty of clients in this business, going through this offer to know what's going to be the next bottleneck, shouldn't you show your client what the next bottleneck is and what the solution for that bottleneck is going to look like? And then if they want to do that with you, amazing. But it should feel like a coaching conversation. Same thing for referrals. I really struggle with referrals. And I listen to calls. This is how they ask for referrals. Hey, Jay, do you know someone that would benefit from working with us? I don't know. Okay, cool. Let's move on.
How can they reword it?
First question is asking for permission. So you have a call, as an example, you have a coaching call, and you want your CS team to basically in that call or that check-in call to ask for a referral. Ask for permission. Drop the agenda. Tell them what's going to be covered on the call. Hey, by the way, would you be cool if I just take 5 minutes to ask you something? Yeah. Can you highlight like a big win you had over the past month or so? I closed this client, or I made this back-end sale, or I got this, or I got that. Brilliant. That's amazing. We love working with smart and bright people like you, and no one knows them better than you do. So I want to ask you, do you have someone in your network that would benefit from, and you give them a very clear benefit, and you should know your audience and the big benefit from your offer. So you give them the benefit and you give them the avatar. And the more you know your avatar, the more specific you can be, and ask them to be specific with the answer. Oh, I actually know Uzi, and Uzi could be a great fit to work with you guys. Cool. When are you going to meet Uzi so that you can make an introduction? I'm actually going to have dinner with him this week. Amazing. When? By the way, Wednesday. Okay, cool. I know they might not take action immediately, but they open the door for me to follow up. Yeah. And the referral is going to come from me following up and asking Uzi or the client, hey, did you meet Uzi last Wednesday? I did. Did you talk about what we talked about last call? Oh, we did. Okay, cool. What would be the easiest way? Email, and then you make it very, very easy for your client. Because if it's going to appeal to their status and it's going to be very easy to take the next step, they will take the next step. The problem is, as an owner, I believe you can do that very, very easily. It's natural to you. But for your team, they need to be trained and they need feedback loops. This is why it's so important for you to incentivize and set those projections for your team, but then act as a coach for your team. Listen to those calls. I've listened to thousands of calls over the past 3 years because a lot of the owners we've worked with don't want to do that work. And we did that work for them, and we coach their teams on how to get the feedback and how to approach those conversations in a much more empowering way so that they don't feel uncomfortable having those conversations with clients.
And how do you, when people are uncomfortable having those conversations, how do you kind of get them to have them?
My approach, which might sound not obvious, it's literally what you would do in therapy if you had kind of an obsessive compulsive kind of disorder, OCD, frequency of exposure.
Yeah.
Oh, I feel very uncomfortable. Cool. How many calls do you have in your calendar this week? I have 20. Cool. How many of them could you think you could have a referral conversation? 5. Send me those 5 recordings. No negotiable. Oh, but I don't know. Don't make it perfect. Just do them. Ask these 3 questions. 0 attachment to the outcome. Just do those calls. They do the first 5. They get more comfortable. They do the next 5 more comfortable. And again, for the owner, the expectation is don't expect crazy outcomes in these first few weeks. I just want to get the team adjusted to the new system and process and change their mindset that they can become a profit center and part of a profit center.
I love how specific you can make it, because everyone, I think even from watching this podcast, they can think, right, how's my churn, how's my referrals, and how is the upsell back end going? And now if someone wants to deep dive into these 3 topics even more, what should they do next with you?
Okay, if you love reading, my recommendation would be just grab our book. It's called Customer Success Manifesto. It's available on Amazon. It's available on Audible if you like to listen to audiobooks, or you can go through our book funnel. Like everyone, we have a marketing funnel for our book. It's called theravingfanbook.com. You just click the link. It's going to take you through your funnel. You can get the physical, digital, audio. You can get the upsell, which is a course that will help you implement some of that. You can listen to our podcast, which is available on YouTube and Spotify. It's called Ethical Scaling Podcast. Very simple, very easy to search. Yeah, I'm the host. Okay. And the first 2 seasons have been just Ben and I, my business partners. So you're going to listen to us talking about multiple things that happen throughout this journey of working with a lot of different entrepreneurs. What are the challenges? What have been the solutions? What we see working and not working? The feedback has been great. Season 3 is coming shortly, and we're going to have some really cool guests coming on season 3. So I recommend you subscribing if you want to keep following us. And anything else, if you need to reach out to us, you can go on our website, ethicalscaling.com. Just send us a message. We're more than happy to provide you some resources if you need some resources.
That's incredible. Really, I've loved enjoying speaking to you, and I'm looking forward to people giving feedback on this, because I want people to put the comments in and tell us what they take away. But if they want to find you, I know you've given the website and everything, but in your funnel, but do you use Instagram, Facebook?
They can find us on Instagram. I'm recommending Ethical Scaling one, not my personal one. So you can go to ethical.scaling on Instagram, or you can go to Ethical Scaling on TikTok as well. We have some short content available in both platforms. I did mention our website. Again, you have a blog in our website as well. So if you like reading, you have a lot of good stuff. You can just send us a message, a DM on Instagram or TikTok. We're available on both platforms.
Lovely speaking to you.
Love to speak to you as well.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Lead to Win podcast. Share with any of your friends, any entrepreneurs, any aspiring business people that you think would need the support in growing their business. If you want to contact me, my Instagram is Osman Kiani Official. Put comments and share below, and I'll catch you on the next one.